today we got a question from Ryan up in Canada, and his question's pretty interesting considering, or if you're coming from somewhere else into Jiu-Jitsu or if you're new to Jiu-Jitsu. And the question basically boils down to, why don't Jiu-Jitsu competitions have the same rules? Because he's been training Jiu-Jitsu for about 2 years, he's a blue belt, and he's noticed that in a lot of competitions that he's done, they have different rules. Sometimes they're a little different, sometimes they're very different, but they're different. Whereas, when he thinks about other sports like football and wrestling and basketball and, a lot of different other sports and soccer, all these sports kind of have the same rules across the board. There might be some variations depending on, how you're playing or whatever, but otherwise it's pretty much the same rules across the board. And so he was wondering, why don't Jiu-Jitsu competitions have the same rules? So, Ryan, thank you for the question. And the answer to your question is pretty simple, but I'm going to give you some ideas to chew on about it. And I'll also talk about why I like it being the way that it is in Jiu-Jitsu opposed to being like other sports. And so the simple reason why we don't have the same rules across the board is because we don't have a giant governing body dictating how Jiu-Jitsu is supposed to be done in competitions. You can contrast this with things like Judo. In Judo, and again, I'm not the biggest Judo buff. I know some people and I know some stuff about it. But again, if I get some stuff wrong, you can let me know in the comments. But in Judo, you have the IBJJF. And the IBJJF sort of dictate how is Judo going to be done, right? You have the Olympics, and Judo's in the Olympics. And again, there's a platform where, again, this is how it's done. So again, they're going to dictate how things are done with Judo competitions. And with that, it's interesting because I had a Japanese student years ago training with me, and I remember asking him about some good Judo people to watch from back in the day before all the rules got set into Judo. And so he sent me these videos that were on YouTube, old videos. It was like, when you watch them, the videos are from just out of black and white TV time. So it's probably like the 70s or late 60s or something. But the guys are competing, and the matches it's like watching a jiu-jitsu match, like a really good jiu-jitsu match of today where these guys are going for throws and takedowns. Once they get on the ground, they have a little bit of time to work, right? They're not being stood up immediately. And then lots of cool chokes like baseball chokes and clock chokes and arm bars and everything else. Really cool stuff. And then what happened was then with Judo, they became more and more focused on just the throw. So then you had things where obviously the groundwork's limited now with time. If you watch a Judo match, if they hit the ground, they've got to immediately go for something. Otherwise, they get stood back up. Also with Judo, I think it was back in the 80s, they had a bunch of people from like Sambo and other grappling sports come into Judo and use gripping techniques that weren't native to Judo. And it was kind of seen to create a lot of passivity in the game where it allowed people to stall out. And so they nixed those grips. So you can't use these grips anymore, right? I think they even removed the double hand grip break to, again, increase the likelihood that someone's going to get thrown. And then at some point, I forgot when this was, one of my buddies competed in Judo, and he said, he was really good at Judo because he used some of his wrestling, and he would go for double legs and fireman's carries. And then those techniques below the waist, where you're grabbing legs, got taken away from Judo. And so again, it changed things up a little bit. The sport became a little bit different. And this is one of the reasons why I don't like the idea of Jiu-Jitsu having the same rules, or of Jiu-Jitsu being an Olympic sport, or having a big governing body. Because I like the different varieties of Jiu-Jitsu that are shown, where you can watch ADCC rules, which really favors takedowns because you get a negative point when you're pulling, although there's that weird thing where they have a submission only round at the beginning. And then you have IBJJF, which is all points, it's a point fighting tournament, and submissions are there, obviously. Then you have submission only with a point system, submission only with overtime. There's all kinds of different varieties. And I like this because it allows people who may be better suited for points to go into that realm. People that are better at submission only, they can go in that realm. And it also, to me, keeps the organizations honest. For instance, like the IBJJF didn't have heel hooks for a long time. And then all of a sudden, this is, to me, how I think about it, a lot of the organizations that are coming up right now, that are gaining a lot of popularity, they allow heel hooks. And they're getting a lot of traction. They're getting a large audience. And to me, because of that competitive nature, I think the IBJJF's looking at it going, well, all these competitions are pulling people in. We need to stay relevant. Let's allow heel hooks in some divisions, right? And they changed the rules. And so I think it's a good thing. I think it keeps the different organizations honest with each other, and it keeps them competitive, and it keeps them fighting with one another. And again, people can decide. If you take out a particular move, people may not want to go to that competition anymore. Like, for instance, if there was multiple different ways of competing in Judo, if someone said well, hey, I still want to attack the legs, so I'm going to go over here. people could make their decision, opposed to one governing body being like, nope, you don't get to do this anymore. And again, there may be reasons for it, but it's just what I see from the outside in. So I like the fact that there's different rule sets that allow people to express jiu-jitsu in different ways and also find a spot for them that may be better suited to their style and their game. Again, in the end of the day, we're all after submissions. We're all after control of someone else's body and then putting the submission on them. How we do that can be different, and I like having those different rule sets to express that. So, Ryan, hopefully that helps you out with your question, and guys, I'll talk to you next time.